Harry Harrison's The Return of the Stainless Steel Rat from, let's see, here we go, Aries magazine number 10. As I look at it there you go. Another one of the magazines I got recently, and I wasn't gonna play too much tonight. Just wanted to kind of go through the setup. I find it a little easier to work my way through some of the rules, seeing the setup in front of me, and then going from there. So I'll just kind of talk you through what I've done so far. Move this stuff out of the way. So over here you can see the various chits separated into different spots on the amazing map, second only to Nightmare House. This one is an incredible one as well. You have your two main characters, Jim DeGriz and Angelina DeGriz. I have it set up for two-player game. The first thing that I did was to pick the villains. So the villains get sorted. They're lettered A to F on one side. Sorted them all out. And then on the flip side, they're numbered 1 to 6. Put them all with the 1 facing up, mixed them up, randomly drew one, kept it number side up, and put the other ones back in the container. So that determines which villain you're going to play. The point of the game is to get to the computer and deactivate the computer and find out who the villain is. There's various ways you can lose if you're wrong about the villain. If your suspension of disbelief track, which is one of those tracks up there, reaches 75 or more, the other way, or if your character dies. Yeah. So in the first two cases, which is your character is dead, your suspension disbelief index exceeds 75, you lose. If you deactivate the computer, you win. When you deactivate the computer, you must revert to the clues given you by the paragraphs in the course of the game and try to figure out the identity of the villain. You have won if you succeed in A, deactivating the computer without spending more than 75 suspension of disbelief points, and B, correctly identifying the villain. So how do you know your suspension of disbelief points? How do you know your alertness track? Well, on the chit there, that's Jim's. On the left is the number 9, and that is his alertness number, I guess, his alertness number, yeah. And on the right is his combat strength. So Jim and Angelina actually are both 9 for alertness level, but their strength differs. Jim is 4, Angelina is 5. So up there, the bottom one is the alertness track. Jim is the top 2, Angelina is the bottom 2. The suspension of disbelief track, they start at 0. When the game starts, that number starts going up because you equip your character with the various tools, suits, weapons, etc., etc. And on each of them, there's a number printed on the left-hand side. That's how many suspension of disbelief you spend, basically. So for example, each player has to start with a vacuum suit, and there's a spot for it right there that says suit, and right off the bat that costs each of them 5. She has a gas grenade that costs 1. a weapon that costs 3, some pain pills that cost 2, some ammo that costs 1, etc. all the way through. Insulated gloves that cost 1. So Angelina right now is on 19. There's a chit token there, Angelina's Disbelief times 10. So 10 plus 9 is 19 to help keep track. Now, once you get past 10, that's I guess when it gets a little more confusing. I'm gonna have to figure out something else how to write that down. Maybe I'll just write it down on a piece of paper that she's there. But yeah, there you go. So that's that. There's tokens for various parts of the body. As you can see, they're placed. There's stars where you place them. So arm okay, body okay, head okay, leg okay. They can get injured. So then it turns to that leg W, which is leg wounded. But for now, they're all okay. So that's how you set up the players. When you put them on the board, each of these are rooms. So you have the different decks. This is the A level, the B level, and the C level. You start your characters at one of the entry squares of your choice. I just started them both on the A1 level. And from there, basically everything in line is where you can go to. So if I wanted to, from this position, there's doorways here on the left and right. I can move to A132 or A130, or I can go to C331 because there is a entryway there too. So this entryway corresponds with this one if I wanted to jump to different decks. This one corresponds to this one. They have to be in line with each other for them to work. So on this side, for example, you can get to pretty much any level just from any one of those spaces. The other thing that you'll notice on here is just an arrow that represents a tube that takes you across the game board to the other side. So if you're on that space, even though there's the dark solid lines are considered bulkheads that are impassable, but if you're on this arrow space, you're basically shooting through a tube to the other side and allows you to keep moving. You can have, I don't think I equipped any of my characters with it, but there is a laser cutter that if you're in a room, say like this one here where there's only one way in, if you have a laser cutter, you can expend one of your movement points to cut through the wall, and you have to do a die roll to see if it was successful, and you can move through the wall that way or through the bulkhead that way. Otherwise you're limited to just doors. When you go to try doors or enter rooms, there's a roll as well for seeing if the door opens or if it's locked or what happens. I should mention that the game is a paragraph game, so throughout the game we're going to be referring to different paragraphs in a story here, and part of those paragraphs up here have various things attached to them: access way, accommodations, corridor, door, industrial, car, service, and cutting laser. So when you're doing various rolls, for example cutting laser, you'd roll 2 dice. The first number you roll would represent as if it's a 2-digit number. So this, for example, would be 12. So you'd go to paragraph 12, and where it says cutting laser, you'd read that part of it to see if you were successful. If it says door, if you were going to try the door and you rolled a 12, you'd refer to the door section, where in this case it says door is locked. So you'd be out of luck in that particular instance. So and then throughout, like as I said, there's going to be clues throughout where you refer to your villain chits again, which are those at the beginning of the game. I rolled 1 dice. It came up as a 1. So there's a die roll marker that you leave there. That refers you to, let's just have a look here. If a clue refers you to chit number 1, for example, of your villain chits, because I rolled a 1, I'd always be dealing with the top left-hand number in this case, which is paragraph 69. So then I'd go to paragraph 69. I won't do that now because I don't want to spoil anything for myself. I'd go to paragraph 69 and read that, and that would be a clue to the identity of our villain. So basically the game is exploring this ship. You're going to run into some various robots. There's other crew members around that can end up working with you and moving along with you to assist you in your searches and fights and things like that. And just trying to uncover as many clues as you can to find out the identity of our villain. It's another one of those infamous Ares games that's supposedly very, very confusing, but just kind of having a cursory look through it, it doesn't seem so bad actually. There is a lot to it for sure, and I think once I get into combat movement and all that sort of thing, and setting up combats and actually following through with them, and I'm sure it'll get a little more confusing, especially when I add some people to my team. But overall it seems fairly straightforward. The rules are laid out fairly well. The thing I find with a lot of these rules in these games, the sequence that they're put in is a little difficult to follow sometimes. I wish it would be a nicer layout, but that said, once you've kind of gleaned the basic aspects of the rules, basic parts of the rules, it's fairly easy to refer back and forth. One last thing I will mention, there's various, you can see there, 2-hand, on-body, leg sheath. This part might get a little confusing too as gameplay goes. If you have something 2-hand, you can use it immediately, so I put a weapon 2-hand. If you have something on leg, it'll take a little longer to be able to use it. If you have something on body, it takes even longer to use it. So this will all go into the movement and phases of the game, I imagine. The only time that it kind of changes immediately is I outfitted Jim with a lockpick. So if he finds a locked door, he immediately switches the lockpick and puts it 2-hand, and the pistol goes 2-body, which is handy enough because he can get into any room, but then he's entering the room without a weapon in his hand, and that could obviously make a difference if he runs into some robot or something bad, basically, because I don't really know what each rooms are going to contain. There's stacks of various robots, 2-sided as well, so Securabot on this side, Hired Gun on the other side. That's just a stack of other weapons and tools that you can use. That's pretty much the basic setup of the game. So there's only 4, unlike some of these other games, this one only has 4 sequences or 4 phases to a turn. There's the movement phase, an exploration phase, an interaction phase, and a reorganization phase. Here it gives you a little brief setup sequence. Determine the villain, outfitting your character, and then placing them on an entrance point. Here's a sequence of play for combat. Weapons tables over here, hand-to-hand combat effects, decompression table, villain matrix, and the wound table. As I said, your players can get wounded as you go. And then a map key just to kind of refer you to all the different symbols and the different colored spaces. So everything that's white is a corridor, for example. Everything that's yellow is industrial. Everything that's blue is service, etc. And you can see on the board were many different colors. Lots of yellow, lots of industrial spaces. So there you go. There's a very basic look at the return of the stainless steel rat. I'm looking forward to playing this one. I think it's going to be kind of fun. I did manage to find a paperback book, the stainless steel rat. I haven't sat and read it yet. I'm curious maybe to do both simultaneously, you know, try to read as much of the book as I can before I kind of dive headlong into this game, to try to get a little more of that feel. And again, it's another one like Nightmare House and like BSM Pandora, and for that matter for Mushroom Eaters as well, that is just thick in theme, which I really like. In this one it has more of a pulpy feel. Like, I outfitted Jim with a bottle of scotch. You can actually outfit your characters with a humidifier, so a humidor rather, sorry, so they can have a cigar, which then affects any combat that they get into. Apparently there's a very pulpy feel to these novels and to the books, where he's sort of a criminal, but he goes around and saves people as well, so he's that kind of character. So it sounds like it might be something that'll appeal to me, just even on that basis. But yeah, we'll just take one more look at the map here. That's the highlight for me, I think, are these maps. But I'm interested to play a paragraph game. I guess Nightmare House was sort of, had a little bit of that. It wasn't a paragraph system as far as you were following through a storyline. It gave you a lot of ambience and stuff, and had some descriptions of various things you'd encounter to add to the whole feel. But this one, it sounds like there'll be a little bit more of a story to follow through, which might be one of the things that after you play it a couple of times and you're familiar with a lot of the paragraphs, it might lose its appeal to some degree. But I think it's worth it, just to get that taste of it, even if it does only last a few times. Probably more like a choose your own adventure book, where once you've read it a couple of times and you know which pages to avoid and which ones to go for, it becomes a little boring to some degree. It just becomes trying to make it through it. But hopefully that's offset by the number of villains that you can encounter in this game, or that you have to try to figure out. I think there was A, B, C, D, I think there was 6, because I think it went A to F. So that'll mix things up a little bit as far as that's concerned, as long as you don't end up picking the same one. I think that'll mix up the game. Plus with the die roll, that should mix it up too, depending on what paragraph you're going to be sent to. I don't know if, say for example, if this was A, if no matter what your die roll was at the top of the game, A always represents the same villain, or if in A there's 6 different villains, and if there are they the same 6 villains that appear on B, C, D, E, E, and F, just in various different configurations. So that part of it might be where the kind of fun and the variation of gameplay will appear more. So there you go. Maybe at one point I will do a gameplay video of this one, but like I said, I wanted to set it up so I could get a feel of the game itself, see it in front of me, and just film this little intro video for you.